What's up guys, this is Adam. Today is my sleep out wrap-up video. Now if you follow me on social media or you've seen some of the other videos I've made, you know that this last weekend I participated in the Covenant House Sleep Out Young Professionals Edition. Now what it was is there were about 35 or 39 young professionals here in Anchorage who slept outside to raise funds and awareness for youth homelessness and for the mission of the Covenant House. So I thought what I would do is kind of give you a rundown of what the whole night was like and what we did and what some of my thoughts are coming out of that. So I showed up at the Covenant House and they had a little check-in table for us. And you know, I brought some things with me. I brought like a sleeping bag. I brought my winter gear. But there were some things they asked us not to bring called like luxury items, things like pillows, you know, anything that would make the night kind of unfair in our advantage. I mean, part of this is they want us to experience, even for a short time, what homeless youth have to deal with. What are some of the things that they have to encounter sleeping on the streets? So no luxury items. So I showed up with just kind of some winter items and stuff I brought with me. They gave me a name badge and then they gave me a plastic bag, like a black trash bag. And they gave that to everybody, and what they asked us to do is put all the belongings we brought in that bag. Like everything that we have with us goes in the bag. And the goal of that was to kind of show us that a lot of the youth who show up at the Covenant House, that's what they have. Like everything that they own is in a black trash bag. So that's all my stuff in one bag that I brought for the sleep out. And that was kind of powerful. I mean, just to see kind of all the stuff that I brought in a black trash bag. And then to think that that represented just a small percentage of the things that I have, right? Like I could fill probably dozens or hundreds of trash bags with all the stuff I have in my home. Yeah, these youth show up to Covenant House with one black trash bag sometimes, and that's everything that they have. So one of the first things we did as we all got together is we heard from the executive director and some of the key staff of the Covenant House. They talked to us about the mission of the Covenant House. They talked to us about what they do, what some of their programs are. And then they shared with us about hope. One of the statements that was made that kind of stood out to me is that ultimately, hope is the greatest thing that the Covenant House offers homeless youth to walk through their door. Yes, food is important. Yes, like a safe place to stay is important. Yes, like a place where they can get off the street and be inside is important. But hope is kind of the ultimate thing that they offer. And they said that they wanted us, over the hours we were with them, to maybe reimagine what hope looks like, or get a new definition or a new picture of it. And for me, that absolutely happened. And I'm gonna share at the end of this video with what that looked like for me. So then what we did is we actually all got on an old school bus. And the outreach team from the Covenant House took us around places in Anchorage where they go almost every day to look for homeless youth. And what they do is they're largely out there just letting them know that the Covenant House exists, right? Sometimes they'll give them food, they'll give them things they need, but really they're just trying to generate awareness. Let these kids know that there's a place you can go that is safe, that is warm, that is hope-filled.
It's usually the ones that have just become homeless that are interested in coming right now. I mean, the other folks who have been homeless for a while, that's where we're building a relationship, where it takes a while. It might take a granola bar. You know, they might not tell us their name at first. Then as we continue to show up, we continue to be present, then they start to open up a little bit. We start to get to know them, and we can invite them into our services.
Of course, we drove around places like you'd expect, you know, Mountain Views, Fairviews, Muldoon, places that our mind thinks of when we think of homelessness. We drove by strip clubs, and the outreach team talked to us about human trafficking and the sex trade, and the increasing role that those things are playing right here in our city.
Different times in the morning, you'll see different girls right out here. And girls that we know who are being trafficked, and they're being bought and sold right there at the state.
But then we drove to South Anchorage. We drove by the airport. They pointed out places that have been homeless youth camps. They pointed out places they found homeless teenagers in parts of the city that, honestly, I don't often associate with youth homelessness. But that's one of the things that became clear to me, is that there's no part of this city where this isn't happening. And also, I was so thankful for the outreach team at the Covenant House who's proactively going out there and finding these kids. That to me is such a big deal, that they're not just sitting downtown in their facility waiting for them to come to them. They're actively going out and looking. They're trying to spread the good news about the Covenant House, right? Letting these kids know that there's a place for them. I think that's a pretty big deal. So after the outreach tour, we got back and we had just a quick dinner. We had soup and cornbread, something that a lot of the residents of the Covenant House would have on a regular basis. So we got to experience kind of some of their food. Then we broke into two groups. There was one half of the group that went and did like a relational activity, played some games, got to know each other, got to know some of the youth. And then another half of the group that I was a part of who wanted to do a service activity. And so what our group did is that we went and we packed about 50 bag lunches. Now these bag lunches are used in a lot of different ways. They're used in outreach. They're used at the drop-in center. You know, the Covenant House has this place where if you're a homeless youth, you can come in even if you're not staying at the Covenant House, and you can do your laundry, and you can use the computer, and you can create a resume, and you can sit inside and be warm, right? Like it's a place where you can go. Maybe you're hungry, you can get a sack lunch, that kind of stuff. So these bag lunches were used in lots of different ways. So we made like ham and cheese sandwiches, put milk in there, put little cutie oranges, that kind of stuff in there. And it was just cool to kind of practically create something that you knew was gonna go to help meet a need. After the service activity, we all came together again, and then we divided into some kind of peer groups. I think our group had like 5 or 6 people in it, and then we had a leader. But then what we did is we had 2, in our group at least, we had 2 residents of the Covenant House, kind of kids who had gone through the system, who were kind of just there to talk to us, tell us their story, tell us their experience with the Covenant House, tell us what it was like to be homeless as a youth, tell us kind of the good and the bad and the ugly of that lifestyle and of their story. And that was really powerful to me, because I found myself sitting next to this young man who had kind of gone through and graduated the program. And as I'm looking at him, one of the thoughts that keeps coming to my mind is, you don't look like what I picture homeless to be. Right? That was one of my big takeaways. They told us while we were out there that on the outreach tour that 1% of homeless population is kind of the drunk inebriate that maybe we picture, right? The person on the corner panhandling who's clearly had too much to drink, the person stumbling around downtown, that kind of person, 1% of the homeless population. The larger percent of the homeless population was like this kid sitting next to me who probably had 1 or 2 jobs even, but didn't have a home and was trying to kind of go from being a kid to being an adult and bridging this gap, but had nowhere to be, right? And so they went to the Covenant House. And so I really appreciated getting to hear their story, because it put a face on everything that we were doing and everything we were learning, to see that this is who is being helped. You know, it's young men like this. It's men who really are making their future better. Now, there wasn't a lot of this stuff I could film, simply because, remember, the Covenant House is their home, right? Like, this is their safe place. This is where they go. And so we really tried to be respectful of them. We didn't try to film the students kind of as they were in their home. So that's kind of why I'm doing this narrative version rather than sort of vlog where I'm showing you everything. But after that, what we did is we got together and we heard from the staff, like all of the department and project leaders of the Covenant House. And this was one of the things that kind of opened my eyes the biggest, actually. Because growing up in Anchorage, I've always heard of the Covenant House. I've known what it is, and I've known kind of what it did, I guess. But I didn't know how much it did. You know, I knew it was a emergency homeless shelter for youth. But they actually serve youth ages 13 to 21 in their program. So it's not just, you know, 16 to 18 or that kind of thing. It really is kind of this wide age range. But they do more than just house them. They have job services where they're training them on how do you interview, how do you get a job, like how do you write a resume. We'll help you do those things. We'll help you become a good employee, that sort of stuff. There's even a room where they can go and they can get clothes for interviews and for jobs. So if you get a job where you have to wear khaki pants or nice pants and a nice shirt, but you're a homeless youth, like, you can go in a room there and get that stuff. You can get what you need to get the job that hopefully allows you to become independent. There are things like computer skills. There are things like an art room and a music room that are there, and things that just, I don't know, it didn't feel, it felt like a home. Like, it felt like a place where if this was where you were, you didn't feel like you were getting second best to anything. And I really appreciated that, because I have to think that being homeless is hard enough, so that when you get in a space like the Covenant House, the more we can do to provide you with a space that sets you up to win, the better, right? And I felt like the Covenant House, the entire space, set them up to win. So like I said, there were job services. There are a ton of like counselors there. If they got some stuff that you're dealing with, there's people you can talk to. You have to do chores if you're staying there. So it's not just a free ride. And so as we heard from the staff and we learned all that the Covenant House does, I started to see, man, this is a place that not just keeps kids safe, but sets them up to win. And that's one of the things that I wanted to see going into this night was is this just kind of, I don't know, like a temporary Band-Aid, or was the Covenant House really helping change lives for the better, so that what these kids tomorrow and what these kids' future looks like is better than their current situation or their past. And I can honestly say that at least from the time I spent there, dealing with the staff, getting to see the facility, hearing from the residents, yes, like that is happening. These kids are more than just coming in off the street. These kids are getting maybe a first shot, but certainly a best shot at tomorrow being better than what they've experienced. So after the time with the staff, then we grabbed our black plastic trash bags that all of our stuff was in, and we headed outside for basically the reason we were all there, the sleep out part of the night. Now, I've done some winter camping here in Alaska, and I've been outside a lot during the day, but I've never slept fully outside in the winter. And I've got to say, it was quite the experience. We had a fire pit outside, and most of us hung out and talked. A lot of people kind of peeled off and tried to get some sleep. Here's what I'll say, I probably slept for 45 minutes or an hour all night. And that happened for a couple of reasons. One, that we were all up just kind of talking about the experience with each other. But even once I tried to sleep, one of my big takeaways is that there is no such thing as a good night's sleep if you live on the street. Because here's what I found is that even though I had my sleeping bag over my head so my face was fully covered, anytime like the wind blew or wind got into that at all, like I kind of jerked awake, like I was up instantly. Sirens go by all night. There's voices, there's people walking by and noises and just kind of things happening around you. And so even though I slept for 45 minutes or an hour, it was not a good sleep. Like when they woke us up at 6 a.m. for breakfast, it felt like I had just dozed. Everybody that morning at breakfast, like they asked us, they said, okay, who slept well? I don't think there was a hand that went up. If there was, I don't believe it. It was kind of miserable. And I remember sitting there at breakfast thinking, if this was my life and I had just slept on the street, how in the world would I have the energy or be able to make myself presentable enough after that experience to then go like look for a job or try to make my life better so that that's not where I stayed? It was just unbelievable how even one night, and that seems like, oh, it's just one night. But it was one night and, you know, the temperatures were in the teens. The wind was horrible, started to snow on us at the end. It really was eye-opening about how hard it is to sleep at night on the street. One of the things that happened during the night is kind of how I want to end this video. And it goes back to one of the things I said earlier about hope. They asked us at the beginning to think about hope in a new way, that they hoped that that's what we took away, was kind of this new understanding or new vision on hope. So about 2 a.m., I think it was, we were all, well, not all of us, a few of us were still up around the fire talking about our experiences, and one of the staff let us know that there were just 2 youth who came in off the street and checked themselves in to the Covenant House. And those 2 youth, that's basically what I thought about the whole rest of my experience. Because as I was outside, like, so cold, but in winter gear and under a sleeping bag, I was so thankful that there was a place that those kids could go when it was 2 in the morning and it was freezing in Alaska and they probably had no other option except for the Covenant House. For them, that place was hope. And so my understanding or new view of hope was that there were people there for them. And ultimately, that's what this whole event was about. It was about raising funds for the Covenant House so they can keep the doors open, so that at 2 a.m., when those 2 youth need a place to go, where they're cold and they're scared and they don't know what to do, there is one place. It's 6 a.m. We just woke up. Slept for, I don't know, 45 minutes. I'm cold. It's time for breakfast. We ate breakfast, and then it was time to go. We gathered our stuff from outside, shook off the snow, put it in the same black trash bag they gave me when I got there, and I carried it to my car and left. So going into the sleep out, I didn't really know what to expect. See, I'd never done anything like this before, and even though the Covenant House was an organization that I knew of, I don't feel like I fully saw them until this experience. Everything that they exposed me to, everything that they showed me they did, the stories we got to hear while we were there, I got in my car that morning at 7 a.m. and left thinking, like, I don't know, like I had seen something that I knew that existed in a new way. I'd seen something old, fresh, if that makes sense. And I got to see that this is a place that is changing lives right here in my city. Tonight here in Anchorage, there are going to be 50 plus youth who are staying inside instead of on the street. tomorrow morning they're going to get up and they're going to go to breakfast, and they're going to know where that meal comes from rather than having no clue when the next time they're going to eat. They're going to have access to clothes and jobs, and all of the life skills, budgeting classes, all of those things they need to one day be independent, successful adults. They're going to be given to the Covenant House. It's not just a bed. It's not just a pillow. It's not just a warm, safe place. Yes, it's all those things, but it really is a lot more. And I never knew that. So that's what the Sleep Out showed me, is that for homeless youth here in Anchorage and cities all around the country and around the world, the Covenant House is hope.